I remember the day I met Emily like it was yesterday. She was beautiful, with long brown hair and piercing eyes that seemed to see right through me. We ran into each other on a crowded street corner, books and newspapers strewn everywhere. As I helped her clean up, time seemed to stop. I remember her fingers lightly touching mine as we picked up the scattered books, and a small spark ignited something deep inside me. The busy street seemed to recede into the background, leaving the two of us alone in that fleeting moment. "Sorry," I mumble, holding out my notebook to her. "Nathan," she smiled, her full lips curving upward. "Emily." "Nice to meet you, Nathan." Her voice was warm, and I immediately felt a connection, as if we'd known each other for years rather than seconds. That chance meeting turned into daily meetings, long walks in the park, and endless conversations. We talked about everything: our hopes, our dreams, our fears. Emily made me feel like a real man. She gave me a sense of purpose and made me feel like I was capable of anything. I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. A year later, I got down on one knee and asked her to be my wife. Tears of joy streamed down her face. She said yes, her voice trailing off as she smiled through her tears. It was the happiest moment of my life. Our wedding was like a fairy tale: the castle, the floating candles, the fun music. Everything was perfect, like we were living in a dream. As I watched Emily walk down the aisle in her lace dress, I thought my heart might burst with love. She was mine now, and I would cherish her forever. I remember how her eyes met mine, how she smiled at me, how step by step she drew closer until we were finally together, ready to take on the world. But after the long-awaited happiness came the hard days, the routine of everyday family life. Emily worked hard as an attorney, leaving before I woke up and returning when I was already asleep. I went to work determined to accomplish something and provide for her. I wanted to make her proud of me, to make sure I was the man she deserved. But the more we tried to make our busy lives work, the more we drifted apart. When our paths crossed, the conversation seemed strained, as if we were speaking different languages. Emily was drifting away from me. I tried to reach out to her, to bring back what we once had, but she spoke as if everything was fine, as if nothing had happened. Her smile was still there, but it no longer came into her eyes. Maybe that was just the way it was. Maybe the problem was me. I told myself I was working too much and not spending enough time with her. I thought that if I just tried a little harder, things would go back to the way they were. So one day I came home early. I slung my laptop bag over my shoulder, hoping to surprise Emily. I imagined her smile, the joy in her eyes when she saw me. She didn't go to work that day. I opened the door, my heart pounding with excitement, but found her in bed with another man, a coworker from her law firm. I could see the shock on her face, but what hurt me most was the emptiness in her eyes. I turned around and walked out. Every step was like wading through loose sand. I drove for an hour, tears flooding my eyes, until I parked in front of my parents' house. My mom hugged me tightly and held me close as I crashed. My dad sat quietly beside me, silently supporting me. They were my refuge, and for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to be vulnerable. My family was my support and my salvation. They gave me the strength to file for divorce, but Emily's betrayal would always be a constant ache in my chest. I knew healing this wound would take a long time. I leaned on my parents, siblings, and even old friends I hadn't seen in years. Slowly, I began to put the pieces of my life back together. I focused on myself, on healing, on finding joy in the little things. A few months later, I found love again with a sweet girl named Sarah. She was different from Emily, in every way warm, open, and always smiling. She never stopped laughing at my jokes, no matter how silly they were. She made me feel alive again. On our wedding day, I didn't hate Emily. I thanked her. For if she hadn't broken my heart, I never would have found Sarah. As I watched Sarah walk towards me, her eyes full of love and excitement, I realized I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Life has brought me through pain and heartache, but it has also brought me to this moment, a moment of true happiness, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. And for that, I will always be grateful.